Welcome to The Explainer. In this series, we dive deep into big topics, and we do it by going straight to the source material.
So, is Japan's system of 47 prefectures totally broken? I mean, for over a century, Japan's map has been carved up into these 47 neat little boxes. But what if that entire system is failing? That's what we're digging into today, a really radical idea that's gaining traction, literally redrawing the country's internal map.
So why on earth would anyone want to redraw the whole map? Well, it really boils down to one single massive problem: Tokyo. The capital has basically become this giant gravity well, pulling in all the power, all the people, and all the money. And in the process, the rest of the country is kinda withering away.
Okay, so what's the big solution on the table? It's a system called Doshusei, which basically translates to the regional state system. And let me tell you, this isn't just a tweak. It's a complete reimagining of how Japan is run.
The core idea is pretty simple, but it's huge. You take those 47 prefectures we talked about and merge them into a handful of big, powerful states, or doshu. The key here is that these new states would get a ton of authority, and crucially, the money, to fix their own problems, No more waiting for a green light from Tokyo for everything.
Right, so this is what we have today. A system that's been in place for more than 100 years, 47 separate prefectures.
And the Doshusei plan? It would just get rid of all that. Consolidate everything down into maybe 7 to 13 powerful new states. Yeah, it's a massive shift. So let's dive into the why. Why do its supporters think this is not just a good idea, but an absolutely necessary one?
All right, let's look at the vision. The supporters, folks like the Japan Innovation Party, are painting a really optimistic picture here. For them, Doshusei is the key to unlocking a much more dynamic, much more competitive Japan.
Their whole argument really stands on three big pillars. First, you create these huge integrated regional economies. Second, and this is a big one, you give these new states the power to raise and spend their own tax money. And third, you use that new power to finally break Tokyo's dominance.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures the scale of their ambition. We are not talking about some minor bureaucratic reshuffling. No way. The goal is to create regional economies so powerful they could compete with entire European countries. Think about that. We're talking about real economic powerhouses on the world stage.
But of course, a plan this huge is going to have some serious opposition. And the critics, well, they say this rosy vision completely ignores some very real, very practical risks that could end up making everything a whole lot worse.
This right here, this is probably the biggest fear of them all. The worry isn't just that Doshusei won't work, it's that it would literally create a two-tiered Japan. You'd get what they call a League of the Strong, these wealthy, powerful states that just keep attracting more people and more money. And then, everyone else. The weaker states, left behind, potentially facing cuts to basic services like schools and healthcare, just bleeding population.
And the list of worries keeps going. Opponents point to the very real human cost, You'd be severing cultural and economic ties that have existed for generations. Then there's the democratic cost. Small towns and villages are terrified their voices will just get completely lost in these new megastates. And on top of all that, there's a really basic practical question. What's the actual plan? How do you even do something this massive? Critics say there's just no clear roadmap.
Oh, and did we mention the cost? Yeah, we're talking trillions of yen. Trillions. Just for the administrative shuffle, new government buildings, new IT systems, the whole shebang. That's a mind-boggling amount of money to spend, especially when Japan is dealing with a shrinking population and all the economic challenges that come with it.
And this quote from the National Association of Towns and Villages, it really hits the nail on the head when it comes to those local fears. People in smaller communities, especially in farming and fishing villages, are really worried. They think in these giant new superstates, their very specific local needs are just going to be bulldozed over, and their voices will be totally drowned out.
So you can see, this isn't just some dry technical debate about drawing lines on a map. Not at all. What we're really looking at here is a fundamental clash of philosophies. It's a battle between two very different ideas about what Japan needs to do to move forward.
Okay, so let's break it down. On one side, you've got the idealists. They're looking at the current situation and saying, this is broken. We need bold, even radical reform to shake things up and unleash our regional potential. But then, on the other side, you've got the pragmatists. They're saying, whoa, hold on, the risks here are huge, the costs are astronomical. We could actually make inequality worse and hurt local democracy. For them, the cure might genuinely be worse than the disease.
So where did the debate land? Well, in the formal debate that our source material is based on, the victory actually went to the negative side, the critics. The judge basically concluded that, yeah, the vision for discourse is compelling, it's exciting, but the practical problems, the mind-blowing costs, the lack of a real plan, the very real risk of dividing the country, those arguments were just more concrete, more persuasive, and ultimately impossible to ignore.
So what's the big takeaway here? This whole Doshusei debate really shines a spotlight on a core dilemma for Japan today. You've got this undeniable need for change, but you've also got the profound risks that come with any massive overhaul. And that leaves us with a really tough question to think about. When you look at Japan's future, which is the greater risk? Trying a radical, top-down reform that could go wrong? Or just sticking with the status quo that might already be failing?